Mental Health Monday
on Radio City Talk
with Mick Coyle.
Tackling the stigma.
Radio City Talk.
Mental Health Monday is back on Radio City Talk. I do hope you're well. We talk about mental health on the radio. It's as simple as that. And we've got a really great show for you this week with 3 guests in the studio to talk about what they do when it comes to mental health, but also looking at different aspects of their community work as well. The teams from Comics Youth in a few moments' time. We'll meet Rhiannon, we'll meet Emily, and we'll meet Bethany. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get into that. If you want to get involved in the show, do drop me an email, mick@radiocity.co.uk. That's mick@radiocity.co.uk. And also, thank you so much to everybody who's been involved on the social media this week, in particular off the back of the Mind Media Awards. We had 2 nominations there. Me and producer John went down to London on Wednesday night, Wednesday the week just gone, at the Queen Elizabeth Hall at the South Bank Centre. And we were nominated in 2 categories, one of which was Radio Programme of the Year. Now, we won that last year for our 24-hour show, and we entered again this year, not really thinking that they'd let us win 2 years in a row, and they did. Hooray! So we won. So officially the best radio programme on the radio talking about mental health. You're listening to it. It's Mental Health Monday. Yeah, we can't believe it either. But thank you to everybody who supported the show and for everybody's kind words about it. We had a really great night. I took my wife down as well, so we really did enjoy ourselves. And a load of people afterwards came up and said, like, how do you do the show? How do you make it work? And we absolutely have to say all the time, it's because so many people are willing to share their stories, come on. And of course, if we've got the ideas and we've got obviously the microphones and the ability to broadcast, but it's absolutely about the people. So thank you to everybody for getting involved in the show. And you can be part of the show too. Drop us an email. We need our next big idea for next year. mick@radiocity.co.uk. Thank you for your continued support.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
This week's guests are from an organisation called Comics Youth, and we've got 3 guests in the studio who are going to talk about how they got involved in the project and indeed how they set it up. So let's first say hello to the MD. We've got Rhiannon Griffiths with us in the studio. Rhiannon, how are you? Great to see you.
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for coming on. We're also going to be meeting Emily, who's been on the programme before, and Bethany as well. But we're going to start with you, if we can, Rhiannon, because we're going to go back a number of years now. 2015, you set up Comics Youth. Just tell us the idea behind it when you first set up.
Okay, so the idea behind Comics Youth comes from my lived experiences. So as a young person, I was quite odd and really geeky and didn't quite fit in. And it's a bit of a sad story, but when I was little and now I have chronic leukemia. So I used to travel from Aberystwyth to Liverpool about 3 or 4 times a week for chemo, for radiotherapy and for surgery. And I didn't find that I could relate to people or make friends because I was so wrapped up in my own trauma and my mental health. And reading and making comics became that form of self-therapy for me to find myself and make friends with the people on the wards. So I used to make little zines with people in Alder Hay, which was amazing and hilarious.
What sort of age did that start, those trips from North Wales?
From birth. So I have congenital heart problems and I was just always in and out of hospital. So that's a long time, basically.
And for you, I guess then that's been normal in life, hospital wards and those sort of like trips to see the specialists and the consultants. Was that part of the reason you think why it was harder to make connections? Because your life was very, very different to other people's lives.
It was. So from a really young age, I was always wrapped up in the trauma of continuously having surgeries or therapies, and it just made me shun everyone else. So I became quite isolated and just put a massive wall around me and went, I can't talk to people because people don't understand me and I didn't know how to talk effectively.
What sort of age was it where you were able to sort of see yourself from a slightly different perspective? Of course, if you were 2, 3, 4 years of age, I guess, life is life as you know it. At what point did you really start to get a sense and realise that maybe other people weren't having the same experience that you have?
So as a really angsty teen who was super nerdy and super gothy, I started reading a lot of comics, and a lot of it was talking about open mental health issues, and I went, that's me on the page. So I started just reading comics and making comics in my own spare time.
Which comic was it?
My favourite comic is Sandman, basically, and to see different characters being portrayed with mental health issues and being so open about lived experiences really helped me to open up as a person.
So is that part of the Marvel franchise, is it? No,
DC.
DC. Right, I'll let me see what I've done there.
I also like X-Men though. We'll show X-Men into X-Men is great. Right.
So what I've just done like James T. Kirk was in Star Wars. That's basically what I've just done there, haven't I? I've made that mistake. In terms of that, a lot of people, at that age will be watching the traditional sort of like tea time shows. You're young, so for you it might have been like a Tracy Beaker type thing. For me, it would have been Biker Grove and Grange Hill. But you obviously weren't seeing that that was relating to you. They were trying to do stuff which generally related to young people. You had such a specific set of circumstances, though, that you had to find that. Do you feel like you were almost lucky that you were able to find it? Because if you weren't into the comics and you weren't into those magazines, then you might not have tracked it down.
That's really true. So say, for example, for myself and the way that I grew up, I tried to access different youth services in the city I'm from Aberystwyth. I didn't find anything that fit my needs. So a lot of mental health services for children and young people are mostly focused on sports and drama, and that isn't a suitable avenue of self-expression for a young person who's very insular, very nerdy, and wouldn't necessarily engage with that. So we started up Comics Youth as that space for young people like ourselves who aren't seen in mainstream media to come together to feel safe and to go over the barriers of their lived experiences. So in our first year in 2015, I think we supported about 300 young people, just the two of us travelling around Liverpool with a travelling suitcase of comics and pencils, which was a lot of fun, and it's just grown over time.
So there's obviously a talent that you had for creating these as well. At what point did you realise you had that talent as well? At what point did you think, I've read this in a comic, now I want to do my own thing?
I think for me, it's not necessarily that I have the talent to do it. I think the talent of Comics Youth as an organisation is to support young people to open up about those lived experiences and grow their own homegrown talent. So for us, we exist to shine a light on those unseen issues. So as an organisation, we support a lot of LGBTQA young people, young carers, young people who are looked after, and young people experiencing complex mental health. And for them, coming together in Comics Youth, they sort of see it as a way to open up a window to a hazard-strewn world by making their own comics. So in terms of our publications, we do a monthly zine called The Gaily Mail, which is hilarious, so we love it. And we do a lot of zines around mental health and realistic experiences of mental health to try and break down that stigma, because from our perspective, no one's really talking about mental health from the perspective of young people, and it's not really young person-led, when most services should be more young person-led. But that's my rant, so I'm really sorry.
No, we like a good run on this programme, absolutely. In regard to that, obviously you're trying to, every organisation is trying to find a connection with the sort of people they're trying to reach. And we've heard on this programme that it might be through art, it might be through football, it might be through rugby league, it might be through all these different things. You obviously thought, well, actually, there's a group of people who wouldn't fit in from a mainstream point of view, that you couldn't, try and, selling adverts on, MTV or something like that. But we can do it through magazines. When you found that connection and that connection started to work, that must have been really satisfying. That idea, you know what, I knew these people would come around to this, and they absolutely have.
Nothing in the world makes me happier than seeing a young person who might not have left the house before engaging with us, seeing and making a friend with someone else and seeing their smiles just light up the room. It's just absolutely beautiful. We had a young person who came to us who hadn't left the house for 4 years, didn't engage with school because they just couldn't leave the house due to their anxiety. So one of our posts on social media about a really silly meme, because we love memes and Comics Youth, then came to see us, and then they went back to school the week after. And you go, there's just such a power in making comics and just opening up and being realistic about how you're feeling.
What would you say that they saw or achieved in that brief period of time that went from not being able to go to school to going to school? I mean, you didn't brainwash them, you know. Yeah, but you also didn't provide, some magical cure to their ills, but you provided them with something. What was that difference, do you think?
Comics Youth is a safe space, and you're able to access Comics Youth regardless of your backgrounds. We're very progressive in terms of using pronouns and being open about mental health and lived experiences in a way that people just feel comfortable talking. So we see people, don't we, just come in where they might not have a friend, then a couple of weeks later are super, super popular and going out everywhere, and you just go, man, I'm jealous. I wish I could go out to gigs as much as you.
We'll meet the rest of the team in just a few moments' time. Can I ask you about the connection between superheroes, as you might see them within comics, and people with lived experience of mental health problems? Because often the superheroes, their origin is often based around something which is pretty awful. A pretty awful event will occur, and from that point, they then move over into sort of this world of being incredible and, out of this world. Is that relatable as somebody who has gone through... There must be many superheroes who, for instance, have gone through hospitals and have been in, regular sort of treatments and things like that. And it turns out they now have special something powers. I don't know what it would be.
One of our main projects in Comics Youth is called Graphic Medicine, and it's based in the Old Children's Hospital. and we use autobiographical narrative therapy technique. Say that 5 times faster. Autobiographical narrative therapy techniques to support young people to open up about their lived experiences and trauma. But we use superheroes as a catalyst. So, for example, we worked with a young person on the oncology unit who made a character about him being a superhero about the cancer sign, and it was a comic that he used to say, "Mum and Dad, this is how much I love you, and when I pass away, I want my character to look after you." And it's just absolutely inspiring.
Oh, wow.
I know, I cried for days, but it was really lovely to see them take ownership of the narrative and make themselves a superhero.
Yeah, and of course that's based around the imagination, and obviously through the comics you can unlock that within a person who was obviously feeling that in some way, shape or form. Obviously had that idea in their heart, but actually Comics Use was the outlet to that.
Exactly.
Great work. Right, we're going to introduce now Emily McChrystal, who's been on the programme before, and also Bethany Gwynn-Adams. Do you want to just give us an update in terms of how these guys came on board and how they fit into the Comics Youth sort of setup?
Okay, so we've loved Emily for years, effectively, and we absolutely adore the foundation. And for us as an organisation in Comics Youth, we're sad that there aren't as many young person-led organisations out there, so we've always championed the Lee Cooper Foundation, and we're really lucky to get a pot of funding in, and the first person that we thought of was to hire Emily because she's absolutely inspiring. And then with Bethany, Bethany's on our marginal development programme where we're supporting young people to become comic book publishers and illustrators of the future, and she's also amazing.
Brilliant stuff. Let's bring Bethany, we're going to talk to you first if that's okay. We started the story in 2015, but over the course of obviously over the 4 years or so, Comics Youth is expanding all the time. Give us a sense of how you fit in now, the sort of the day job, if you like, in regard to Comics Youth.
I'm more of a young person who actually accesses their services. So I am there pretty much the same amount of time that's there at the moment because I'm just using their office space to work on the comic that I'm developing with them, which is like Steve, who's also one of the people who leads Comics Youth. He's acting as an editor and he helps me work through all the different aspects of it. But I came to Comics Youth because they would often go to, as they're saying, the outreach programs. They'll go to other youth groups. There's one called Gyro, which is an LGBT-focused youth group in Liverpool, and I was a regular member of that, and it just so happened to be that they were starting the marginal program, and I'd spoken to them about comics, given that it's Comics Youth. So it was suggested to me that I should get involved with them in that way, and since then it's just kind of been like a huge focus, and it's been quite a good thing as well, because I've been able to turn the narrative that was from a negative experience into something that's become more positive and productive through accessing the services that they have on offer at Comics Youth. Is
there a sense when you come on board and you meet the team for the first time that they kind of take you under their wing, that you become part of the Comics Youth family, if you like, that the help's there, the advice is there for what you want to create?
Absolutely. Because previously I was getting to a point where I was beginning to give up on the idea of creating art and that whole sort of outlet, and then suddenly becoming a part of like a warm, encouraging, friendly environment where if you say, I want to do this, and they go, why don't you? We'll help you. It's just, you feel very much like people are like they've got your back and they're looking out for you, and it's such an immense experience for often a sort of hobby or an outlet that people could be like, oh, but you could be focusing more on maths or other such things. It's a very warm and welcoming environment.
And I guess as well, you're of an age. How old are you now?
25.
Whereby you don't want to be switching off and thinking, well, I would have been interested in the arts, but life hasn't worked out that way, so I'll just forget about it. It's great that you're able to maintain those ideas, those hopes and dreams and aspirations, instead of essentially getting, like many people do, bogged down in life and thinking, oh, no, I'll just go and get a mortgage and pay some bills and for the rest of my life. Whereas actually they said, if you want to do that, absolutely. How can we help you make it happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that is really useful, because obviously it's good to pursue other things alongside comics, but I think having that sort of environment where they encourage you to take time for yourself to develop your own things and also think about the sort of things that you want to do as an individual can really help just kind of go, actually, what do I want to do? And it's just a positive environment to grow from.
We heard before about sort of that idea that there are thoughts and ideas within your own mind which you want to get out there. You're not really able to find a way. Maybe through the work you could do through Comics Youth, you were able to sort of get key messages out. What for you was it, Bethany, that you sensed sort of in your heart or in your thoughts that you thought, I need to get a message out, and comics is an effective way of doing it?
That would actually be what I'm working on them with in the marginal program, because in September last year, so it'd be 2018, my friend, she died by suicide, and it was obviously very unexpected. And it got to a point where I felt as though no one else was talking about it in my immediate social circle, the people who knew her, and also in the broader circles. So I personally started to develop a little comic around this as an outlet for myself. And then when I started to speak to Steve, who was at Gyro at the time and just advertising Comics Youth, it then became a place where I realised I could develop this as an idea and then get it out to other people to talk about the effects of going through grief and also struggling to communicate those ideas in a very visual and slightly easier to digest way.
Well, I was going to say, don't do any spoilers here because I don't want to... But like, what would people see as the themes that are contained within that work? Because people might think, oh, it's going to be very, very dark maybe, or it's going to be something which, is going to be, something that I wouldn't understand. But obviously you're an artist, so you want to create stuff which is relatable to people. So how does that sort of find its way onto a piece of paper? So it won't be done on paper, will it? It'll be done on a computer, presumably.
I'm actually doing it on paper, so you're right. It's more for the people who have been left behind in a way, and just processing the inability to even say the word or say the things that have happened or how you feel, and coming to grips with it as a process, because it's such a huge, anomalous thing to try and verbalize, but more just to break it down and also understand how you then approach the memory of a person who was incredibly dear to you, who is now just a memory in that sort of way.
Have you found it helpful looking at your own work to sort of compartmentalize in your own mind what it is you've experienced and gone through? Because I guess it's the equivalent of writing it down. You're writing, but you're drawing as well. You must look back and go, oh, on that day I was feeling like this, or this was the emotion that I've really sort of been able to summarize in this particular panel, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like doing it visually is, so for me personally, it's somewhat easier because it's able to show the things that were perhaps very relevant to to our lives at the time. But was we lived together in university in the same flat, so there are tons of small things that just have loads of memories wrapped up inside them, and just able to express that in the visual format and just see how something like a very small object can transfer from one place to another and the significance that can hold, which you might not be able to see as well in a purely written format.
In terms of the comic that you create and the work that you do, is there an end goal in terms of, do you want to publish it? Do you want other people to see it? Will you post it online? Will you share snippets of it? Is there something that you want to do with it?
But currently having a little debate about whether or not it should be published online, because webcomics are often free to view, and I'm not against that. But it's also one of the things where the end goal with Comics Youth is to have it published as a physical book, so that people then can go out and buy it. But also, to publish it online means that the message can go further across, and for more people to be able to access it, who might be able to say, yes, actually, I've had a similar situation, because as I've developed the book, I've had more and more people say, yes, I've actually been in the same situation, or I've had the same thing, and just more and more stories are coming out through openly speaking about it. So physical, probably yes. Online, probably maybe.
Has being involved in Comics Youth and meeting the team at Comics Youth changed your life?
Yeah, I think just being in a position where I feel able to go back and because drawing has been a passion of mine since I was maybe 7, 6. I remember being the person who was always scribbling in primary school, but I was beginning to kind of lose it, and as negative mental health effects. It was just more like throw it to the wayside. It means nothing, blah blah blah. Not to dismiss it, but it's just more. It's helped me kind of think about what I want to do, where I want to go, even what sort of jobs I want to apply for, because I've had a very scientific degree basis, but instead I've decided maybe something that's a little bit more creative, maybe something that's a little bit more engaging for me might be a better choice than going down what was initially a very set path for me based on my degree.
Rhiannon, do you want to say something nice about Bethany?
I'm going to cry. No, that was so nice. We think that you're amazing, obviously, and that we are going to publish your book because it's just awesome, and I look at it and I cry every time, so yeah.
Let's bring in the development officer, Emily McChrystal's in the studio. She's been on the show before. Big fans will know. It was in the Lee Cooper Foundation episode. Lee Cooper Foundation is about mental health, young people, for young people as well. I guess when you've got a project like Comics Youth, that fits right within that remit. How are you going to make connections with young people who might otherwise not be able to find it? You do it in the things and through the things that they love. One of them might well be comics.
Exactly, yeah. And I think comics is something that a lot of people maybe haven't explored to create themselves before, but Comics Youth just gives young people a space to go after school, go if they've got it free, because there's a lot of Liverpool colleges around, even the unis are on there too. So the age ranges are 8 to 25, so it's a massive scope of young people that can access the services, and it's just super chill. There's no pressure anywhere. If you want to just sit by yourself and just access the space, there's a big massive comic library that you can use and just pick out and read, and it's just a safe space to just be yourself, really, isn't it?
Can you tell us then how does the format work then? You might have first-hand expertise. Steve's been mentioned a few times in terms of like helping out. We've not met Steve, but he sounds like a really great person.
So Steve's the art director, so each person within Comics Youth and the staff has a specific role. So I'm the development officer, so I do more outreach, I do some campaigning, I write for money. Sadly, it's what makes the world go round. So we have Steve, the art director, obviously Rhiannon. We also have a marketing and communications officer, which again, it's just networking and stuff. And we have Kay, who does a lot of the LGBTQ plus campaign and stuff, and general youth workers too. So it's a big team of people working together to kind of give the best care that we can. So
in terms of the space that you've got, that people might come down and read some of those, can you describe that for us?
Yeah, we're based in the city centre. It's in between the Specsavers and the McDonald's on Lord Street. And we've got a virtual tour on our website as well, which makes it easy to access. So being in the city centre makes it, again, easily accessible. So it's basically just a big massive room. We have a Nintendo Switch that you can just play some games. Yes.
I finish at 3. Should we just
feel free? And we have a big comic library in the middle. We have our office spaces. We have just big tables in the middle with all like art supplies, comic supplies, just anything that the young people want. We kind of get into make it happen.
So if someone looks at that virtual tour and they go, oh, I could see myself fitting in there, or that's something that I might want to do, can they just come down? Do they need to email you? Do they need to let you know that they're coming down?
Yeah, well, preferably we'd like an email. But it is just a safe space to pop along to. But we do ask if you want to join any of our workshops or anything that we've got going on. We do have a membership form on our website, which is super easy to find. And that's just for our boring legal reasons. But and on all our membership forms as well, we have like pronouns and preferred names and stuff, just to make it, again, easily accessible and inclusive for everyone. And because we are very big on making sure that everyone who comes feels safe, included and welcomed. That's
such a great shout, by the way, the virtual tour. I went to James's place a couple of years ago when it just opened. And one of the things we did was just a short 2-minute, when you knock on the door, here's the person who answers the door. And
exactly.
This is what the first, because that's one of, I think they call it threshold fear, I think they call it, where you're literally afraid. You think, well, I would like to go, but I am so unclear as to what I'm going to see when I get there.
Exactly.
Like, is someone going to stop me? Is someone not going to stop me, and I'm just going to carry on walking into the building? And when you see one of those virtual tours, you go, okay, well, at least I know that if I go and stand by the, in this case, comics area, I can read a few comics and then work out what everyone's doing.
Yeah, and even on the website, we've got literally a breakdown of someone's gonna meet you at the door, someone will buzz you in, just everything's covered. Because I think for us as well, it comes from lived experience of being that nervous young person who has to access a space, and with it being in the city centre, we do appreciate that it is going to be super busy. There might be overloads and it might be too much for some people, so we try and make it as easy and as chill as possible. So we did do that virtual tour with that in mind, because we are those people who go to a new space and we're like, what do I expect? Is someone going to walk in? Do I have to bring something with me? So yeah, we just make it as easy as possible.
As easy as possible. We like that. Chill. We like that too.
Yes, exactly.
I need to get up to date with all this lingo. Rhiannon, in terms of yourself as well, you obviously the reasons that you set up Comics Youth in the first place, is that still ongoing in terms of your physical health that you're dealing with?
Yeah, so I have chronic leukemia and I'll always have chronic leukemia, and for me, one of the reasons why I started up Comics Youth is, like I said before, I want it to be run by young people, and with me, I think I have about 10 to 15 years left, and my plan is to upscale our young people to take ownership of Comics Youth, because I think that's really important given the current climate.
And in terms of that, do you find yourself ever working on comics, so from a personal point of view? Because obviously you're doing something now which is making a huge difference to loads of people's lives, but obviously you're still a human being. You set up Comics Youth, but you set it up for a specific reason too.
So I think for me, where I'm at, I might not have the time to be as creative as I used to be, but with Comics Youth at the minute, we're moving forward to trying to become the first young person led publisher in the UK. So my plan is to try and make us self-sustainable through selling our comics. So a lot of my focus has been looking at attaining corporate sponsorship or getting supporters to back us. For example, we've got a really exciting Patreon coming on after Christmas that we'll tell everyone about after Christmas. But it's about making sure that we've got that safe space to run for forevermore.
Excellent stuff. If people want to sign up, Emily, do you want to do the business on this one for social media? And you're going to mention a load of social media channels, which I've never even heard of, but I'm sure young people and people you want to connect with have. Just tell us which ones you're on.
Yes, of course. We're literally on everything. So that doesn't make it easy at all.
Everything. Is that a special, the Everything social media channel?
No, but if you just search in Comics Youth, our website will be the first thing that comes up when you search us. We also have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and all of them are just Comics Youth. Search that in, will come up. We post everything on our social media. We advertise our weekly sessions. We advertise any upcoming events we've got going on. And as Rhiannon mentioned then, we have a youth-led publishing house that we're going to be creating, and also a youth-led newspaper that we're going to publish within said publishing house. So that's super exciting. So we've just been promoting that really and trying to get young people behind us, and that we don't need any experience to join the newspaper. You don't need any writing experience, drawing, anything. Just a passion to get young people's voices heard within news.
And when do you think we might start seeing that? When might that be getting out?
When we get the funding.
When we have lots of money.
So we're looking for advertisers at the minute, aren't we? And what we're trying to establish it as is a young person-led newspaper in Liverpool with young people's voices from Liverpool, and it's going to be centred around good news stories. Because there's so much sad news stories, we want to try and focus on the positive.
Exactly, but that doesn't mean that we're going to kind of be deluded in a sense of the world's wonderful and there's no bad things. It's just a sense of using news to kind of be accessible for young people, because a lot of people watch the news and they go, oh, turn it off. I can't watch it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but you know what, wouldn't it be nice to just create something where you go, look, when I go here, there's none of that Brexit stuff.
Exactly.
There's no general election taking place. You can deal with all those things at a different time. Right now, unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah.
How great would it be for a young person who's written it to just go around Liverpool, see it somewhere in a shop and go, oh my God, that's my work, that's me, that's my unicorn.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, that person might well be Bethany. Don't say if there's a unicorn in your work. But obviously these guys have made a big difference to you and the work that you're doing now. You might be one of the first published.
I mean, hopefully, I want to be able to create the thing fairly soon, because it not only would it be cool to be yes, I was in the first things I was published by this brand new incredible publishing house, but also just because it means a lot to myself, to the people who've helped, and also it can mean something to Comics Youth in terms of going forward.
Brilliant stuff. Can I be one of the first people to read it?
Yeah.
Bring it in. Bring us a copy when it's done. Let us know how the funding gets on, and we'll obviously tag you in all the social media stuff as well. We're only on Twitter and Facebook. I think we're on Instagram as well. Are we on Instagram? Yeah. We'll do your story. I don't know what that means.
Do it all.
Thank you so much for your time. Just mention the website, can you? So
yes,
people go
comicsyouth.co.uk.
There you go, or just type it into your search engine.
Yeah.
It'll take you straight through there. An absolute pleasure to get you on the programme. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll see you again very soon. Bethany, great to see you as well. Good luck with the work that you're doing. Look forward to hearing and seeing, depending on as and when you want to publish. And Rhiannon, do keep us up to date with what you're working on throughout the course of the next year or so. The Comics Youth team on Radio City Talk from Mental Health Monday.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
On Radio City Talk.